Welcome to the Simply Wild podcast. I'm your host, Sadie Jane, and we have the pleasure of being joined with one of my favorite humans in the world, Kinzie Madsen. Oh my gosh.
Such an honor to be here.
The queen.
The most honor.
Dude, we are going to talk about fun stuff.
We've already been like spilling the tea behind the scenes.
Literally for like what, the last 30 minutes? We won't shut up.
We've been talking all day and we're just sitting here with our headphones like talking.
We moved from the floor now to here to record in a really professional way, and then we just stopped, continued talking, and didn't even press play for like another 30 minutes. Okay, I don't actually remember how I found you. Do you remember how we started?
I have no idea. I mean,
No.
I just feel like it was like Utah, like people, like
Totally.
I knew you from other people.
Yeah.
I think I probably followed you first because I had heard of you from my best friend Lex. And so I probably was following you and just knew of you.
Okay.
And then I sent you a CEO sweatshirt.
Yeah, I'll never forget when, well, Kinzie, I mean, we'll talk about this anyway, but you guys, Kinzie is so freaking dope. She is an incredible business coach, an incredible designer. And we're going to talk about the fake epidemic of cancel culture and the fake epidemic of being cringe.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to tell you how we're going to talk about this because she's literally changed my life around those two topics. So I don't remember when you came out with the sweater CEO, but she came out with this cute design.
2019 or something, 2020.
Okay. So somehow I think maybe I was following Lex or somebody else, and I saw your cute post with like you on the beach. I'll never forget it. It was like the cute little promo of the sweater.
Yeah.
And I think I like slid into your DMs and I was like, I want one of those sweaters. And you're like, Sadie?
I was like literally like starstruck. I remember like texting Lexi and being like, Sadie asked for one of my sweaters.
And she's like, slay. Not even.
Not slay back then. I don't know what she would have said.
OMG, probably. Who the hell knows? Anyway, she sent it to me, and I mean, I think that's kind of like when my obsession started, like when I started following you. And from really the very beginning, I noticed just how real Kinzie was and how little you cared. You could feel it in your words. You could feel it in your profile, just how little you cared about other people. Like from the beginning, there were no fucks.
Yeah.
And it always blew me away. And then she like made some cute, like a future self sweater, like any kind of merch she always created. I was like, I want that. And I'm trying to go from here. Okay. So then really quickly, I just have to tell you the interweavings of how I know her and how much I love her. Now we're dear, dear friends, yes. But back then it was just obsessions. And little did we know we complete each other in human design. So that's really what
complete. I only have one other person that I found out does that, and it's my mother. Which is just insane.
Which is funny because you said that pieces of me remind you of her. So random. I know. I don't know who else. I'll have to go look and do a bunch of composites on all my friends. But we actually just found that out a couple months ago, and we're like, of course. So when Jeff left his job, the thing I've always needed most in my business as far as help goes was like organization and design. I'm incredibly creative when it comes to writing and conceptualizing like creation. You know this. Mm-hmm. Kinzie knows this now because she's been a part of my team for almost a year. But I can never get the design thing. Well, Kinzie runs this design course. What's it called?
Anti-School Design School.
Of course it is. Because she's anti-everything and somehow she's everything because of being anti-everything.
Anti-everything. I need to like put that in my bio. That is so good.
Somehow by doing that, it cancels everything out. So nothing's real. And because she's anti-everything, she's literally everything.
Yeah, I'm anti-everything, but also pro-everything.
Yeah. Exactly. It works out perfect. So when Jeff left his job, the very first thing I did was buy the anti-design school course for him. And that was the very first thing he did was sit down and learn Illustrator through you. And it like makes me emotional because I knew I wasn't supposed to do that. It was not my genius. And he was able to conceptualize things that he would have never been able to if it wasn't for your course. It was just so good. So we kind of just continued to interweave through each other. You did Manifesting Magic, which was like a really beautiful whole day workshop with a bunch of women entrepreneurs.
Which you probably like wanted to kill me during.
All the entrepreneurs were awful.
She would like text me every few days and I was like, I'm so sorry. Like if you ever need anything from me, it's really It's hard for me.
No, literally, I will tell you this is the tea. We're starting with tea. Manifesting magic was so hard to do because no one would get back to me. And
I believe it.
I'm like really close to a lot of them. I won't say all of them. Some were better than others, but most of them I'm super close to. And I could not, for the life of me, get a photo from them. I'm like, you guys, I sent you the link already. How are all of you successful multimillionaires? I don't get it.
Do you think that's your defined ego that makes it easy for you to like do stuff like that?
I mean,
or do you think you're just like you're like disciplined enough?
Well, what makes it hard for you?
I just forget. Truly, like I just forget. Like it's 0% of like a not doing it or not having the energy. It's literally like I remember in school being like, I was so frustrated because it wasn't like I didn't do my homework on purpose. It was not in my realm of like even anything I needed to do.
That's interesting because you have a defined head. So I would think that it would be the opposite. You know what it is for me? I'm going to be so honest. It's because I'm a people pleaser and I'll put other people before me.
Well, and that's when it's a strength.
Yeah, that's actually when it's beneficial. Because if somebody's going to say, yeah, I guess it kind of depends on the person if we're being really real. But I feel like you're
really good at like making a commitment, keeping a commitment. Mm-hmm. I actually heard somebody say that like we always think of people pleaser as a bad thing, but there's parts as a business owner that it's really good to be a people. That's like one of the needs of a business is like pleasing your customers. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah.
I'm an interrupter.
Love that. Interrupt me all you want. I think that's make it a good podcast. That's why we have the sound equipment so that it can like pick up on two at the same time. Yeah, so that was awful. You were awful. Just kidding. You were amazing. Everyone was amazing.
It was a stunning event. Like that was honestly the moment that I kind of was like, because I had dove in like super deep into spirituality when I left the church in like 2018. And then I kind of got like just bored of it. I just like wasn't as interested. And then manifesting magic, I was like, this is so fun. Like I forgot me and Cammie, my assistant, were like both watching it, and it like awoken something in us where we were like, this is so fun. Like it was like I don't know. It brought us back into the fold.
Love. Well, I think that's when, I don't remember if it was me that said it or you that said it, but it was the tagline of like, I want to make spirituality cool again.
It was you.
Because it's just like so important to me because there's so many, which is actually, I think, a whole piece of the topic that we're talking about, because whether it's spiritual culture or, you know, purity culture or whatever it is, but people think they know more than other people, and it just makes people think they're canceled. So I'm jumping ahead but in that moment, it was really fun to like work with you in that. Up until then, I had always had coaches that weren't projectors, and they were great. It was wonderful. Actually, I think maybe my other one was, but she didn't know that she was because she wasn't in human design anyway, or she didn't know her birth time. But I was like, that was the launch for Sacred Rebels. That was the launch event for Sacred Rebels. And I was feeling so like I wanted to have a steady place to go while I was creating Sacred Rebels throughout all of the year. And I was like, I'm going to just like see if Kinzie's going to has space for one-on-one. And that's when it started, us working together. And since then we've just molded. Now she does design work for SSJ. We've come really close. She comes to my house and we
so fun.
Microdose. Can I say
a microdose that feels like higher than a microdose a lot of times.
And we just laugh and create and it works out.
Yeah.
It's great.
So fun.
So here's Kinzie. Let me tell you a little bit more about why I explained in that introduction, because this is really the segue into what we're talking about. I don't know if it's been every piece of my business. I don't know if it's just because I have two defined centers, but I definitely, and I don't know if it's because I've evolved from so many different avenues. Like I used to be the mommy blogger. I used to be really deep in religion. Like I've had these pieces, and maybe it's because I'm from Idaho and I now live in Utah, and there's so many different cliques and pockets. Not that I never felt not included. It's just like, maybe it was just me feeling like, where do I belong? Mm-hmm. I think a piece of that need of belonging always made me feel nervous that what I was doing was not being accepted, AKA cringe, right? Especially when I started selling more. Now, I remember feeling really deeply when I was like in the influencer space and doing sponsored posts, I couldn't wait to just promote myself. And so once I finally started promoting myself, there was like a whole nother layer I wasn't prepared for of cringe. oh my gosh, I'm saying this too much. People are unfollowing, and people did start unfollowing me. Coincidentally, that also happened to be the time that I started becoming more out there and showing more of my tattoos and talking more about my gay father. And I couldn't decide whether people were unfollowing me because I wasn't who they was before, or if I really was cringe. And there were some people that I considered friends and considered quote unquote cool. And I was like so nervous about this cringe situation. But I also needed to make money. And I also believed in what I was selling. And that was a huge piece of why I hired Kinzie as my coach, because she made it look so effortless. Everyone always has their shadows, of course, but you made it look so effortless. And so I hired you during the launch of Sacred Rebels, and I had most of my content created, but you really pushed me. I'll never forget. Do you remember what you said? You were like, let's see how many followers you can lose. This is what she does. I'm like, how many followers I can lose? She's like, let's see how mad you can make the internet. And then I'm like, I don't want to be a cult. I don't want to be a cult. She's like, what if you were? Literally. I'm like, I don't know how, but it's working. It's working. And I'll say this too. I'm sorry, there's so much preface, and I'll shut up and I'll let
No,
you
I
talk.
love it.
But before this, when I dipped into my plant medicine experience and really like honestly started healing my addiction to social media, to my phone, and using the guise of, oh, I'm making money, I can be on my phone all the time, and really it just became an addiction. When I started separating that more and more, I became like more lax of where I posted. So I'd like post once every week and just be like, it is what it is. Like, oh yeah, I have I'd still get really successful launches, but I wasn't really putting in my all. And I knew I needed to do that for Sacred Rebels because I knew I had a year of content I needed to create, and I needed to have a really great launch so that I felt confident in that, not feeling like I had to launch something else to make more money. Mm-hmm. And if I was going to do that, I had to go to my edge. And so I'll never forget, like I was posting, you're like, post every day. Why not? And I'm like, but Kinzie, I'm so cringe.
It's so funny to think about like the posting every day thing being like so scary.
I know.
Because now does it feel scary still now?
No.
I mean, you were posting with the last launch, you were posting like multiple times a day. It was like so slay.
I know, it's so interesting how I'm really just so grateful for the lessons that you've taught me of. And it's so funny because it's essentially the lesson that what is actually on the other side of the doubt of being cringe. There's literally nothing. It's not, it doesn't exist. But have you always been that way? Like, let's start with that. Like, how did you become this non-dualistic human? Truly.
Well, I think the problem is that happens with this is my like issue with it is I think, and I don't know where this happened. I was raised with a mom who was like also had an individuality complex. So like it was really cringe. She obviously didn't use the word cringe, but like the most important value thing was us being different. Like she like instilled that in us. I mean, me and I had 5 little sisters all had short hair, pixie cuts. I had a pixie cut until I was graduated high school. Like, wow. But it was just this like obsession with individuality that I was honestly raised with. And there's a ton of things in my like human design and astrology also that are part of it. But so I think to me, it's always been way more embarrassing to care. So like my problem is like to me, I would be more embarrassed for somebody to think that I'm overthinking what I'm posting than for somebody to call me cringe. Like that would be more embarrassing. So it's like there's still a story there.
Yeah.
But it's just on the opposite end of it.
It's crazy. Where did your mom get that? Do you know?
Idea.
You ever asked her?
Well, I mean, honestly, I think she's autistic, and I think it's pathological demand avoidance of like what you're expected to do doing the exact opposite. It's like actually like a brain thing. And I think I have that as well. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if that's it or if it's just nothing else makes sense of why she would be that way. I mean, she's an Aries rising, Aries sun, Aries north node. She has tons of Aries in her chart. So could be that too. But yeah, she's always been like really valued individualism.
Interesting.
Which is crazy because like she was raised in the Mormon church and raised us in the Mormon church, and I feel like that's not totally normal for it. So
yeah,
I don't know.
Well, I love that. And I love that that is where it all came from. And I think you're so right. When I would, and I don't know if I ever felt safe enough in a coaching relationship to be so real. That was another thing that I loved with me and you is I was so just like, listen, I feel cringe. Because what was happening was this, is I was seeing in real time, and I think I've talked about this on the podcast before, I was seeing in real time the opposite of what I was trying to get, like what I was trying to profess. So for example, there's so much negativity around spiritual culture. There's so many there's so many memes that are making fun of it, and I make fun of it too. It's like it is so cringe, even though it's not. We're going to get to the point that like literally nothing is cringe.
Or everything is.
Or everything is being online or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But I was seeing right before I launched Sacred Rebels, there was this whole thing about the coaching industry and how these women were manipulating these numbers and like making them so high and everyone was like coming after them. And so it was like everything right before I did it, it was like spirit literally was showing me the opposite. And I really feel like spiritually, it was showing me just like a signpost, like, just so you know, this is what happens when you're not in alignment. So just be mindful. But also on the superficial level, I was like, oh, this is what happens when you're cringe. Like people are secretly just like making fun of me the whole time. That's kind of like what I was like, if there's posts about this for other people, then I must be that. So in a lot of ways, I have been grateful for cringe in a way because it's helped me stay in integrity with myself. It's like constant checking in. But there's also the shadow side of that you've really helped me move through, which is like none of it even exists.
Mm-hmm. Do you think, this is something I've been thinking about a lot lately, is, I mean, all the talk about like the jacked up things in the coaching industry, I notice like really good in integrity coaches like will get triggered by that. And do you think it's because like you feel so deeply, like you're able to connect so deeply with energy that like you get confused what energy is yours or not? Like in that sort of way where it's like, obviously you're not inflating your numbers. Like all of these things are on the polar opposite end of what you do. So why do we get confused of like thinking that we're even any part of that?
Yeah, well, I think it comes from even the confusion of what is spirituality, because people are like, oh, it's a sign. Or it's all reflections. I'm like, not everything. Although, of course, we're all each other. There's also projections. So what one person might see as a sign what one person might see as a sign, the other person could see as a warning. So that's what makes me feel so in a way, yes. And in another way, when you become so accountable for what you believe, you're able to decipher and say, because a lot of those signs should have made me run the other way and be like, well, I'm not going to launch this. I'm not going to do that. Like, I'm not even going to dip my toes into that. Right. But instead I said, no, I'm turning it around. And I think that's actually helped me heal this inner cringe within me. Cause I know at the end of the day, I sleep well, knowing that like the only cringe that would ever be cringeable for me is if I was out of integrity, if I was inflating numbers, if I was creating testimonials or whatever these people are doing that is not real, that is really fake. Like if people think it's cringe to create something beautiful or real, like who am I to even care?
Literally. And like when I think of the people who are like not cringe in the way of like, I mean, what, like,
Let's
okay,
define
so
cringe.
Yeah, people like maybe like showing up and selling, talking about yourself a lot, doing things that are not like, I don't know. That's what I would say is business owners feels cringe, is showing up a lot, talking about your things, teaching, whatever. But that can differ for every industry. But it's like, to me, what's more cringe is the people sitting on the other side of their laptop, unhappy with their life, who aren't willing to take a risk and like do the uncomfortable things. Like that's cringe in its own way too, you know?
Yep. Well, and it's like, so they're unhappy and they're not making money, or would you rather be considered potentially cringe and have your pockets full and
Literally.
have people that are resonating with you? And to be completely frank, maybe it's not the word cringe. Maybe it's just that people aren't in alignment. They're not your clients anyway.
Yeah.
And so they're not going to buy from you anyway. So what are they doing on your platform?
Yeah.
Well, you might as well like let them watch. There's nothing that is more fulfilling than not letting the outside source win and then seeing what happens on the other side. That was what's really powerful for me with Sacred Rebels launch last year. Was I was like, let's go. When you're like, let's see how many followers you lose. I'm like, wow. Okay, I'm trying to make money here, but cool. And so I just trusted, and I was just so proud. And I almost had $1 million launch, right? Like it was just so profound. And Ashley Adams actually said something recently that was so powerful, and I just forgot it. Fuck. What did she say?
Was it the thing about like nobody hating on you is doing better than you?
No.
I heard someone, her or Lucy, say that.
It was oh, it was so good. Fuck. What were we talking about before that?
Cringe, making money.
Oh, yes. Okay. I heard Ashley Adams say something recently. It was a while ago, but it was so interesting. It was on TikTok or something. And she was saying how, and she was like, I can't believe I'm admitting this, but years ago, I watched a girl. Do you remember this? Who was so flamboyant, so out there, so confident. And Ashley in her, she mentioned that she admitted that it was in her like shadow, like in her insecurity, that she was judging this person. And she's like, oh my gosh, look at her. Like, what is she doing? And really, if we see cringe in someone else, it's just that is the reflection. Like, what is it that we can't see within ourselves that we're not like honest? And maybe it's that we're wanting to be that and we're not. So she's like, yeah, I couldn't believe it. And then she's like, and I stumbled across this girl months ago. So she hasn't seen her in years. And this bitch is making so much money and now has so many followers. And if she had listened or tried not to be cringe or listened to that inner critic or listened to what I was projecting onto her, none of that would even happen. And I think about that a lot when I'm just being out there. I mean, just being on the internet in general and showing up, it's totally different. We are different, and we have a society of different. We're not like, I'm tilling my garden for sure, but I'm gonna fucking video me tilling my garden.
And it's not that big of a deal. Like I don't know. I feel like there's like this idea that like people who show up on social media, like they're just always on their phone or whatever. But like in my opinion, like I remember my vacations more because I have content from them. I remember like moments in my day more. I look back before I was like showing up consistently on social media. I don't even remember what happened during those years of my life because I don't have content around it. And that sounds dumb, but it's like, I don't know. I like to think sometimes that it's like we're not just like showing up online and creating content. Like we're documenting our lives. Why is that such like a cringe thing to do?
Yeah, I know. I completely agree. And, going back to even the concept of like, if I think something is cringe, what is it actually telling me about myself? And what am I doing with that? And if I have time to nitpick other people's things to say this is cringe or not, it hasn't happened in a very long time. In fact, if there's somebody that's out there, I'm clapping for them. Like, go, you sell that product. Like, you be confident in that. I love witnessing people love their life and share those things online.
Yeah. I feel like I've followed before people that I know have like hate followed or whatever. And I follow them and I get inspired because I'm like, this is so refreshing. Everyone hates this person and they're still doing their thing. Like it doesn't, I don't know. I do think it's really true that you have to look at like, if you're somebody who's so afraid and paralyzed by being cringe, how many people are you judging as being cringe throughout your day to day? Because that you're going to think that people are showing up the same way for you. So like one of the first things I'll have people do when they start working with me is if you're hate following anyone or following anyone that you don't like, unfollow them, or you're going to assume that people are also following you that you don't like.
Yeah. Or even like that trigger you.
Yeah.
Like maybe you're friends, but you feel like, oh, she's posting more. Oh, she's getting more clients, or, oh, like it's some way treating you in the wrong way. You're just calling more of that in for yourself. And it's so true, because I have friends or clients and they're so like, oh my gosh, did you see that? Or she was able to buy that. And I'm like, what are you even talking about? This is just a shadow because you're jealous, because you want that too. So what are you going to do? Are you going to have the energy of just talking shit? Or are you going to take that energy and figure out how to actualize that yourself? Okay. I want to do something that just dropped in. I want to give you scenarios of things that may be cringe. And I want you to debunk how they're not cringe.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Let's see.
Okay,
this is totally on the fly.
Okay. I don't know if I can debunk. I think I just will say
It's not. No. I'm literally, as we're talking, I'm like trying to think of like things that are most that I've seen that are pretty themed as cringe.
Okay.
I genuinely don't give a shit.
Okay.
Because I'm too busy with my own shit. But there's been a few things, like, for example, crying on the internet. Tell me why that's not cringe.
This is so hard because I'm like, the idea that something is cringe is implying that like I care about it. You know what I mean?
Totally.
Like I'm like
That's why you don't care about it.
Exactly.
That's why crying isn't cringe to you.
It's like somebody's crying on the internet. That's fine.
Okay,
and
so then
also,
why does the person care about it?
Because they never express their feelings or something. They have a hard time expressing their feelings, or
maybe, or because they think that that person wants attention.
Yeah. Okay. So this is one of my biggest things that I've been thinking about. Okay, lately.
Tell me, because what does that actually mean? If they're seeing somebody get attention and they're not getting attention,
they don't get attention. That there's a limited amount of attention that people can put out to have. I was thinking about this the other day because, I mean, obviously, I'm like, I have a shaved head. Sometimes it's dyed a certain color. Sometimes, not sometimes. I have tattoos. I always will have these tattoos the rest of my life. But like, I'm very like different looking, and I always have been, and it's like part of my identity. I like looking different. And I was thinking about how sometimes nobody's really said, I think because I don't care, I truly like don't care what people think, people don't fuck with me. Like I've never had anyone like, I like never had experienced any bullying or any mean friend. Like people don't fuck with me. But
that is literally the boundary of your integrity.
I guess.
Do you understand that? Because you are so integrity with who you are, and because you own it so much, that's the ultimate boundary. That imagine how much more strong and powerful that is. The boundary of authenticity. Authenticity is like 7,000 more times stronger than love. So imagine the frequency of that versus who am I? Which is okay. We've all been there. Maybe not Kinzie.
No, I've been there, but I think the different, like I for sure, like, I mean, I have an open identity center. I'm always like, what am I doing? What's my aesthetic? What's my whatever? But I think I'm just, I literally don't even think about other people perceiving me. So like when people will say stuff about, people like look like this just for attention, I'm like, I am not even thinking of what someone thinks when they look at me. I look this way because I want to look this way.
Yeah.
And so when I see somebody posting a video of them crying on the internet, I'm like, they wanted to post a video of them crying on the internet. What does that have to do with me? Like it's not, I just think there's this obsession with perception and like how you're being perceived, that it's like, that doesn't even cross my mind. Yeah. Like I don't even think about it. And so I think that's a superpower. Like literally. It's a nice place.
And that's why you teach on that.
Yeah.
Because I also think that maybe it comes from your defined head and Ansha and throat, because there's just like such a knowing. And so there's not a lot of chatter. I think that my completely open head center does hear, like I literally can read minds of like what other people are thinking. And that just like totally messes with me, right? Because I'm just like, well, then this is happening, then this. Okay, tell us about your thing that you've been thinking about a lot. That I totally interrupted you about.
No, that's what I was thinking about, the attention thing. How people will say like, it's like those people are doing that for attention. It's like, how come that is our first thought and not just that person's doing it because they want to do it? That person felt like posting a crying video would be healing for them in some way, or I don't know. It's just like this.
Why is that
the go-to thing is like that it's attention, because I don't know. I think you're showing that you do stuff for attention.
Totally.
Like I don't really do anything for attention. Like I and I'm not saying that in like a unself-aware thing. Like I just do stuff because I want to do stuff.
Yeah.
And so I think whatever your story is on the other end of this, like this person is doing this for attention. This person is posting this bikini picture because they want guys to think of them a certain way. It's like, huh? Like I'm posting a bikini picture because I think I look good. What does that have to do with myself, anything?
Totally.
Yeah. My sister said, she was talking about this like comic book or something that people don't like. She's like, yeah, people are really hating it, but I love it. What does that have to do with me? And I was just like, that's so true. Like, what does people's opinions have to do with us? Like, I'm going to like what I like. That has nothing to do with me.
Well, and that goes to this along the same lines of like relationships with people. I have always been one to, I actually thank you for your opinion. Thank you for your opinion on that person. But if I have an interaction with somebody and I feel like it feels well energetically for me, I'm not going to take someone else's communication with them.
Yeah.
I'm going to take it for face value of what I have with my relationship with them.
I feel like that's been, I mean, I've told you this, but literally, like, Sadie won't talk shit about people. Sometimes you're like, come on. Like, I'll be like baiting her, like wanting her to like talk shit. And like, she really doesn't. You like literally like don't.
It's so interesting because my mom, I actually used to hate it growing up because we call my mom Silent Courage. And so growing up, I mean, she had a father who left her for a man who left her with 8 kids. And never once did I hear her say a word. Not once. But the shadow side of that is she doesn't really communicate a lot. And so that always bothered me so much, especially as an open throat, completely open throat center in human design, because I could feel that she was bottling up a lot and I wanted her to just express it. And then I also felt the pressure in the family to be able to express, but then I never really felt heard. So I think that I actually think that helped me a lot because I'm really grateful for that because she always just had such an integral, but also she like literally didn't communicate. But that's okay because, you know, you get both. It's the yin and the yang. I don't know. She made a schmata. But what's interesting is like, and I'm realizing that, first of all, thank you for that compliment because it means so much to me because I really do. I see it so much in our industry, especially in different like counties in Utah. There's just so in different relationships and I just can't do it. It makes no sense. It just feels like poison. Actually, we were talking right before this about spells and hexes and witchcraft and people sending negative energy to people. Talking shit is unconsciously, subconsciously sending spells to people. Please listen to what I'm saying because literally you could be sending ill-intentioned negative feelings to people and you don't even realize you're doing it.
I think that's why it like drains your energy. Like think of when you're like talking shit about someone. I mean, maybe if you ever do it, if you've ever talked shit in your life.
Well, and she would know because she's been my coach for a year. So if
sometimes I get her to crack. Yeah. Sometimes I get her to crack.
If I'm ever triggered, she's like, just tell me why. I'm like, this person, I don't know.
And usually like I'm the type of person that I just don't care about gossip. I think it's part of like the way I deal with things is like I don't care about a lot of stuff, which there's also the other side.
Yeah, you disassociate a little bit. I mean, yeah.
But like with you, because you don't, I'm always like, oh, let's get her to gossip.
You would.
But I feel like when you're done talking about someone, even if it's just talking about someone, like not even with ill will, you feel drained. It's like you literally just did spell work and you didn't even know you were doing it.
Well, and also you're drawing a literal cord to that person. What we don't realize is that when we talk ill about something, especially not from a place of this is my story, this is like a he said, she said, especially in a gossipy way, there's one thing to be talking to somebody like a space holder or you're purging or releasing. But when you're talking about it from a place of victimhood, like this person did this to me, you are literally giving that person or that place or that pattern or that whatever it is, the power. So it's genuinely just sending an energetic cord and it's just sucking. And this is why it's so interesting, this like idea of cringe or how could she be an influencer? Who does she think she is charging this much or being a coach? Like who the fuck cares? People want to share their medicine. People want to charge what they want to charge. What matters is what's happening in your own homes. And even the disease around cancel culture, right? Like it's all a ploy of the negative energy to just try to strip us from what we have, our own energy.
And it mostly affects women. Like think of how much shit men get talked on the internet. They don't really get canceled. Chris Brown is still touring. Like it's like this literally is only something that like silences women.
Yeah. It just shows the power of the womb. And that's why they're like, they know it, whoever the fuck they is, but they know that they can combat the power of the womb. If they can get it to fight each other, imagine what would happen if we just all supported each other and let people cry on the internet. and not care.
Slay.
Like, that's not paying my bills.
Is that something people really hate? Is like crying on the internet?
I mean, I think so. I don't know. I feel like I've heard that somewhere. Like, yeah, I mean, I've come across TikToks where people are like making fun of people crying on the internet.
I love seeing someone cry on the internet.
No, I think it's so cute.
Me too. It's like that's
where I spiral though. Is like, so I've actually been off TikTok for like 6 months, but
TikTok is toxic.
Literally, because I feel toxic. Like anything I want to go see, it's always the opposite. So I always see things like that are really dark and negative. Cancel culture, like why this person is doing this, or I mean, just like the craziest things. And so what happens with a completely open head center is I spiral and I'm like, oh my gosh, what's being said about me? Because if somebody's literally taking the time and energy to care if somebody's crying on the internet, that's so weird.
It is weird.
You asked me, how did we get on the topic of not talking crap?
I don't know. We deviated from our game show. Okay, I'm going to ask you something to prove me that isn't cringe.
Oh my gosh, I'm scared.
Okay, something that isn't cringe. Let me think of something you would maybe think is cringe. I don't know of anything that you would think is cringe.
Well, every time I think something is cringe and I'm like, I can't post this, you're like, why this isn't cringe?
I know. The things that you think are cringe, I'm always like, huh? Like, it makes no sense to me.
Okay, I'm going to try to think of one that I think is cringe, that I've thought is cringe that you have.
Okay.
I'm going to open up my Instagram.
Yeah. Okay.
Because literally for the last year, I've just been like, I'm like, this. And you're like, what are you talking about? Post it. And it always does so well.
I think my thing is like, I hate walking on eggshells. Like, I don't want to feel like I have to like change myself for anyone. And so for me, if I even have the thought of like, is this cringe? I force myself to post it because I'm like, I didn't create a business to walk on eggshells. I created a business to like not have a boss and not have to like answer to other people.
Well, cringe is going back to this women, fighting against women and the patriarchy doing that to us. It's literally a made up patriarchal system because we can even go into like my red hair. And I'm like, I thought I wasn't going to be like as sexy or like as like main character energy. And you're like, what are you talking about? That's literally the patriarchy.
Literally. And like, there's no one more main character than redheads. Like, I feel like people dye their hair red and then turn into the main character. Literally. Like, it's like literally such giving like the most main character energy.
Yes. I found one. I found another cringe thing. It doesn't take me long to like remember and be like, oh shit, what was I thinking? But in a good way. When I painted the names on the wall for Sacred Rebels.
You thought that was cringe.
I was like, is this looking cringe? Is this giving... I don't even know what I thought was giving. Like, I'm trying to be cute and artistic and aesthetic, and it's just looking like...
What if you are trying to be that?
Well, but what if I don't execute it perfectly? And what if I'm not considered that and I don't look like professional and
I think maybe like professional is cringe to me. Like being so professional, like I love messy. And like think of like with AI, like things are going to get more and more perfect on like a robotic level that we're going to become obsessed with the mess. We're going to become obsessed with something not looking perfect. I saw this TikTok or a thread or something that was talking about how the things that we try to recreate with a certain era, like for example, when we're posting a Polaroid, we want to reflect the way that the weird light happened. Back then, that was bad. They didn't want the lighting to be bad. They didn't want the grain, but that's the things that we're trying to recreate the most now. So it's like now I get frustrated if I have tech issues, but 50 years in the future, they're going to have an aesthetic filter that's like low Wi-Fi. You know, like it's like the stuff that we're running from is the stuff that marks the era.
It's like, I couldn't agree with you more with that. And I love it so much because it's in that's where the uniqueness comes in. That's where people feel your medicine and your frequency. But I hold myself at such an interesting, what's the word? Not level, but like
expectations.
Totally. 100%. I don't really feel that way. I don't feel that way at all about other people, but for some, it's always me. And I am my biggest critic. And maybe it's my Capricorn in me or all my other open centers. But I'm like, is this giving the frequency that I desire to give off? Like, I think a loss also, I'm going to go into this too, is like feeling so misunderstood for a lot of my life. And if I post something, that's what another thing about being cringe or like even cancel culture, so much of it is weaved in misunderstanding. And so much of it is weaved in assumption. And so if I post it and I'm trying to give off this frequency and it's not taken that way, it just would devastate me. And also, who am I to say? I'm not in charge of other people understanding the frequency. If they're not wanting to be on that, they don't have to. If they don't want to watch even like the videos of the workshop and all the women are circling around singing Long Time Sun, I'm like, it's stunning. And if you don't like that, that's okay. But there's definitely moments where, because I can feel so much of the polarity all around me within the openness of my centers, I think I just feel that. And I just desire, I do desire that people can feel my frequency in the way that I hope that they can feel it. And that's where I think, I mean, I definitely didn't get that like you did growing up, right? Like, I definitely feel like that's where my cringe fear comes from, which is also aligned with my fear of being canceled, which I don't have anymore now working with you because it's totally fake. Well, not just working with you, but also seeing, now we've been able to see that it actually doesn't work.
No, it only works like, my thing that I always think about is like, you can cancel me, but I'm going to keep showing up. Like, you couldn't force me to stop showing up.
Totally.
Like, no matter what you said, no matter what you did, I'd still be there the next day showing my face. Like, that's the only thing that it affects. The people that I've seen it like work on, they've just disappeared. Yep. And that wasn't because they had to, but that was just because that was their choice. That's how they handled it.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, it goes back to being in right relationship with yourself, right relationship with the world. Like, what are you are you a dick? Really? Because sorry, bro, but that's going to show up. And are you willing to look at that shadow and then learn better from it and then show up again in deeper integrity? What's interesting about being on the internet for as long as I have, and how long have you been on the internet? A long time, right?
I mean, a long time. Yeah.
Yeah. For both of us, is that in ways it gives more people to point fingers at you, because I don't know if I looked back 10 years ago, I would probably be saying something that's counteracting this. I know there is
100,
because of
a month ago.
Totally. Literally.
I can't look at my content like a month ago.
I know. Because of like diet culture and freaking, what's funny though is I want to ask you, like, I was going to go off with a completely different thought, but I'm going to a different one because you're conditioning me right now. Thanks.
I can't.
I appreciate it.
I can't stay on the same line.
No, literally, I can feel that. I have so much ADD right now. I need an Adderall. What I've noticed with you is that you don't let people have an option to cancel you, because it's almost like you cancel yourself. And so, like, you just came out with something like how to create a cult. Which is hilarious because my following is really loyal.
They literally, the other day you were reading those comments out and I was like, damn. It was like literally like just the most beautiful things I've ever heard said about someone.
Yeah, I feel so grateful because I've worked super hard to give them incredible content. And I'm not doing the work, they are. And if they do the work, I know transformation will happen. But that's why I'm so adamant about talking about, I'm not your guru. I'm not your guide. Like, you are your own medicine. This is all like, continue. If you want to continue to show up in my containers, to do that. But it's funny because right before I created Sacred Rebels, there were so many the two specifically on TikTok actually, or somewhere, Netflix or something, these documentaries about these cults that are showing up. And I'm like, okay, I love that I'm creating a community, but why is it that like, it's just so freaking annoying that like the world spins these spiritual leaders that have a community, and literally one person could go online and be like, oh, they acted better than me, or, oh, it totally had cult vibes. I'm like, just because we have a commonality doesn't mean that I'm literally trying to be your leader and we're all just like trying to wear white. Like, that's just not the vibe. But you're so funny because you'll be like, well, own it. Like, are you kidding me? Look at these testimonials. We'll own it. So tell me how you got to that point.
I'm a Leo.
Okay.
I feel like being a Leo helps.
Yes.
But I also feel like it's a thing of just like, everything is a cult. We're always having somebody that we're looking up to. And like, why is it so wrong to have a guide that you look up to or a teacher you look up to or a mentor? And like, think of like literally like freaking Taylor Swift. Like, why doesn't she get canceled for having a cult? You know what I mean? Like, Swifties are crazy. They're crazy. And like, in the best way. Like, I just think for me, there was a moment after leaving religion that like devotion and the idea of it was kind of like shaky to me. Like I was like, oh, I'm only devoted to myself. And then I'm like, it's sometimes fun to be devoted to somebody else. It's fun to be like obsessed with a star or obsessed with something else. And like, I am such a fangirl. Like I love fangirling over things in high school. Like I've just always been like obsessed with music and like really being obsessed with them. And so I think for me, I can also just feel that like there's been times that I've looked up to people so much and like sometimes valued their advice more than mine. And like, that was okay. Like, for example, leading, like when I learned from a teacher, they know more than me. If I'm paying somebody to teach me something, they know more than me. And I think there's this element of like being coachable that you have to realize that you aren't the expert in everything. And it's okay for there to be leaders and it's okay for there to be people who create strong communities because we want that. We want to feel like we belong. And a lot of times I think when there's actual cults out there. Yeah. But if you're worried about starting a cult, you're not going to be one of the ones who starts an actual cult. Yeah. Like it's the same way I've heard it said that way with imposter syndrome. Like if you're afraid of having imposter syndrome, you're actually like you can do the work because the people who are scamming people don't have imposter syndrome. Like they're doing it on purpose. So I think with a cult, it's just like realizing if you're not wanting to start one, you're not going to start one. You're not going to accidentally start a cult. These people who are starting like crazy things where they're like actually doing really harmful things don't have the people's best interest in mind. And then just realizing that like it's okay, at least for me, realizing that it's okay to be devoted to something. It's okay to learn from someone. Like, I don't know. I just think this idea that there's just this weird, like, it's honestly like a very ego-y thing of like, this person doesn't know more than me. It's like, what if they do? What if they, you know what I mean? Like you've been in spirituality for how long? Totally. I know you know way more about this area than I do versus I've been in branding for like 15 years. You come to me with branding questions. So it's like also realizing that there is stuff that other people are bringing to the table. That doesn't mean that you like completely ignore yourself and ignore your intuition, but it doesn't mean it's a cult if you're learning from someone. Totally. Like,
I know it's so interesting. Well, first, two things came to mind. First of all, it's so much more fun that way, isn't it? Like, and
1,000,000%.
That's the progression of life. That's the excitement of life. Like, and then the second thing is, I think that neutrality is good in a lot of things, but I think what I'm seeing, I guess, in the undertone of all this is like this, I almost see it as like this shallow, neutral space where we're all just like, we're all bubbles. We're not growing. We're not looking at anybody else. We're not feeding off of anyone's own energy. We're just like in our own little vortex of like what we already know because we're so afraid or because we do have this heightened ego or because there's so much pinned against us to not continue to learn. And even the concept of that, learning, going to retreats, getting courses, like all these people are just like so cringe. And I'm like, okay, so what is it not cringe to then just go to Nordstrom and eat lunch with your friends every day? Because
literally,
great, you do that, but like I'm literally going to create this thing to help women heal their wombs.
And I think maybe people partially feel guilty that they're not doing that. And I don't know if that's something that like is maybe kind of like I'm like, is spirituality trying too hard to bring other people in? And so then they're getting annoyed.
Pressure. They feel pressure. They're like, let me live my life. So they're like,
I just want to go to Nordstrom and eat with my friends. But
which is not bad either way.
No. But I've been feeling this lately too with like people saying like the self-help world, like just constant need for self-improvement. Like I think that's fun.
Yeah.
And it's like it's fun for me to learn new things and cause myself to rise to new levels. And like if you don't like it, you don't like it. But why are you like saying this entire industry is bad because you don't like it.
Yeah.
Like, it's just like, it really, to me, feels very like, I don't know, that's rude to say, but like, no one's that important to like take down an entire industry. Like, it's like, I'm sorry that you're bugged by this. Unfollow people who are in it.
Yeah. It's just projections.
Yeah.
And I think that there's a lot of, I've said kind of something along the lines in the podcast of this, like, there's a lot of undertone of just insecurity of where we're all coming from because we want to be accepted so much.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we're just coming from a generation. Now we're going into a different age of Aquarius where it's more acceptable to be yourself. But it's like I don't think we actually realize just how crazy this time of life is, because we are literally on the precipice of a completely different way of living. And because of that, we have like literally one foot in one world and one foot in another. In one world, we're like, we are these independent people. And then another world, we are feeling pressured to grow and come together in communities, but we don't want to do it. Right. And also like in like more of a human design spiritual level, like, we're so close to the precipice of like 2027 or like this new awakening of who we are, rising into a different frequency or whatever it is that you believe, if you do believe that something is shifting, that we are playing with these two pieces. And it does feel like a lot of really overwhelming. And it does feel like, oh, if you're not doing what I'm doing, and I do not feel this in any way. If I could go to Nordstrom and eat lunch every day, I would. I just couldn't do that. But it does feel like there's this like undertone of judgment of like, if you're not doing what I'm doing, then it must be that I'm wrong or that you're wrong, or maybe you think that I'm wrong. And so instead of me feeling like that, I'm just going to push it onto you that you're wrong.
Yeah, on both sides.
Yes.
Like, from every single aspect, I think it's like this illusion of separation.
Yes.
And I think that only happens because the internet, because you see anybody in real life and it's like all of these stories of canceling someone, of their political affiliation, whatever, it all goes away.
Yeah.
In real life, like, we're able to connect. But I think there's something about like being behind a screen that makes us all feel so separate from anybody that isn't doing the exact same thing as us. And that's when people are like jumping on canceling someone, they're just getting the feel goods from being part of a community that's canceling someone. Yeah. They're wanting the same thing. They just, for some reason, haven't felt welcome in those spaces or haven't felt called to those spaces yet. So it's like their own form of like belonging,
inspiration.
Yeah, which is sad.
Or a guide. I know. And it's interesting, like, even going back to this idea of gurus or cults. Actually, I'm going to go here first. You see this a lot in like religion or non-religion. Like, people just want so badly because they're so worried about what the other person is saying. Mm-hmm. And I've literally created magical portals. I don't know a lot of things. I will just say that right now. I'm going to disclaim that. But I've seen things actualize literally this year with how I've been able to show up for people that think differently than I do. And it is insane, the portals of literal magic that open up, of love, of understanding, of boundaries and respect. We just haven't been seeing that. And if we don't get highlighted because it's not drama. I mean, you could even go into like, it's literally like soul harvesting, energy harvesting.
What does that mean?
Oh, have you never heard of that before?
No.
I don't know if I believe it, but we'll just go there. It's fun. You'll love it. Which you love. I don't know how we got to soul harvesting, but here we are. Kinzie, this is psychotic. So they say that like soul harvesting happens at like concerts or at Burning Man, or like it's like essentially where a bunch of people come and their energy is harvested for something else, for like something negative or something bad. And I believe potentially this could be true in the form that they are making us fight they're creating opportunities for us to fight on the internet. They're creating these fakes, and who is they? I don't know. This undertone of negativity. And because of that, where is it taking our energy to those places? Mm-hmm. So that in essence is an energy harvest, right? Mm-hmm. Because rather than focusing on what's important, we are focusing on something that doesn't even matter. And you can see this with any kind of political rant, any kind of fake news. I mean, you can go deep into the conspiracy of like, why did this show up in the news? Well, also this was happening and nobody said anything about it, right? So you
it
just
feels
wonder.
like it's not working as well as it used to.
No,
Like
there's
the
no
internet,
shadow.
yeah, the internet is making it so they can't do the shit they used to do.
Well, they're like, okay, let's use the internet to combat people. And now we're like, actually, joke's on you because I can see right through your facade. You're going to lock us up away from each other, but actually we got out and that's not even working, right?
Did you see the new movie Civil War?
No.
It's so interesting. It shows that. Like, it never talks about, I really liked it. Some people didn't like it.
Yeah.
It shows the polarity of like the two sides fighting, but you never know what they're fighting about. And there's multiple times in the movie that they're like, why are you shooting that person? Who are you reporting to? And they're like, no one, they're shooting me. And they're like, but who are you reporting to? And they're like, no one, they're shooting me. And it's just like this, it's this craziest metaphor to be able to see, like, we're fighting to fight.
Literally.
There's no, and people hated it because they were like, what are they fighting for? But I'm like, that's the fucking point. Like, what is everyone fighting for?
Why are we fighting about cringe?
Literally.
What is even cringe? Is literally fake.
Literally.
Why are we fighting about cancel culture?
It's like all of this stuff. There's people dying.
Literally.
And we're like getting caught up in like all of this like silly internet stuff that we're not even going to remember in a month. In a month, it will be like, if you're running a pop culture podcast, you have to do it like in the moment within 24 hours, because within the next 24 hours, there's going to be something different. Yep. And it's just like, I don't know, it's silly.
And it's all actualizing so fast because they can't keep up with how we're realizing that none of it's even real. Mm-hmm. And so imagine the energy you're putting on trying to put something out there that's not going to ruffle feathers. Mm-hmm. When in a month, you're going to wish that you were actually more loud, more authentic, and more unique, because that's going to convert. That's going to bring more people, more community in.
And that's going to make you more money.
And it's going to make you feel better about yourself.
Yeah.
Never once have I doubted putting something that I considered cringe out there. In fact, like you said, the more I feel scared about it, the more I need to post it, because it's actually a way and an opportunity for me to literally step into that new version of myself. And that is the energy. Everything is energy, and you feel the energy rise within you rather than focusing on somebody's trying to cancel and like reading the comments and I would way rather create something that makes me feel so terrified to post than consume something that's going to take my energy.
Yeah. Well, and think of it in the energy of like going on a first date and having butterflies. Like, we know that butterflies are like excitement, and it's like, oh, like, I hope this person likes me. Like, it can be the exact same thing with cringe, where it's like, oh, I hope people like this. Like, I'm kind of nervous. Are they going to think I'm cringe? And instead of like fighting it or feeling like it's bad, because I still definitely have times where I'm like, is this dumb to post? But I'm like, oh, I guess I'm going to post it, see what happens.
Yeah.
It like doesn't have to be something you run from or you're afraid of feeling, but it's just like, ooh, like nervous butterflies.
Yeah. I also think it helps us really anchor in our truth. Mm-hmm. Like the reel that went viral of Baylor. I'm just like, you know what? I'm a naked mom. Mm-hmm. My kids see me naked. And if you think that that's wrong, I'm sorry, but I obviously don't, you know, and people, you know, it definitely makes you more susceptible to people's opinions. But I'm telling you, nothing has brought me closer to myself than seeing an opinion about me and realizing it's not true, because it just helps me dig into the roots of who I am even more. Yeah.
Feels addicting, honestly, sometimes.
Especially for Kinzie, because she's like, how can I ruffle feathers?
Yeah, sometimes I have to draw myself back and be like, am I saying this on purpose just to ruffle feathers? Sometimes, yes.
Sometimes, yes.
Sometimes during an eclipse, yes. I need to like put my phone in a drawer.
Literally, she's like, I want to start a fight on the internet. And then she's like, oh, wait, maybe not.
Then I come over like just completely drained, colorless, just dead inside.
That's when microdosing helps. And then a couple weeks later, you're just going to shave your eyebrows off and everything's going to be fine.
Casual. It'll be casual.
I love it. Yeah, I think it's so important to, you know, take those steps that freaking scare you, because what else are we doing if not? Mm-hmm. Especially if we're anchoring into who we truly are and being so brave. And I can tell you this much, like, I would have never found you ever if you hadn't been brave to be out there and loud and make a sweater with fluorescent CEO huge on the front. Like, I loved it. And
it's so funny because like when you reached out to me to be your coach, I was like, why does she want me? Like, it wasn't like I was thinking like I was cringe, but I was like, you're like so much further ahead in your journey. You're so like, it was just like this energy of like, I don't know, like I feel, and you're like so spiritual, and I'm like so like trollish, and like it was just like I was confused, and I think, I mean, that gives me like just it. Maybe for people watching it, you think you have to fit into a certain box to like bring people in. Like if I had just never met you and online, like I would be showing up. If I was trying to get you as a client, I would have been showing up in a different way. I wouldn't have been showing up with all my weirdness, and I would have maybe been like, I don't know what I would have been doing.
Yeah.
Hop
I would
have been like trying to do hop line.
No. Hop line? First of all, I would definitely have not hired you.
But like, see what I mean? Like, it's like
you wouldn't even know how to not be yourself.
Yeah, but it's like if I was trying to bring in this client that because I would have said for sure you were like, you've been a dream client this entire time. But if I was thinking about how you were perceiving me, I would have showed up completely different.
Yep.
And so I think like we're going to attract the people that we're meant to work with when we can fully just be ourselves. And we don't know, I don't know why me being me attracted you, but some way it did.
Well, I really feel like for me, it was the shadow of really stepping into my next highest self, releasing these layers and cords of perception, honestly, and being misunderstood, because although I have a very successful multi-million-dollar business, I'm also still really, and I've been in the spiritual realm for so long, I'm also still really finding the uniqueness of who I am. So, and it's like, as a Capricorn too, and you know this now that you've worked with me and you know I'm psychotic, I don't need systems. Like I don't need somebody to be like, let's create something new. Because I do that already and I don't need more of that. I just needed somebody who I knew was so authentic and they didn't care about anything else but their authenticity, because truthfully what I knew is that you weren't going to just tell me things that I wanted to hear. You were going to tell me like what was real. And what's funny is I'm like, as much as I believe that, I'm like, I don't know if you've ever actually corrected anything that I brought to you and said like, how is this? How is this? How is this?
Well, yeah, because it's always good. I'll tell you, like, if some things, I feel like I've said stuff before.
Yeah.
But you're like, that's the thing where you're like, I don't need systems. Like, yeah, you've already naturally, I think, built so many things in your business, and like you know what you're doing. But I would tell you if I was like, I don't know if I would post that. Or
you've told me different ways where we're like sitting in together in like meetings, or I'll say something, or you'll just say it like really blatantly, but not in a way where it's not been the places where I thought you were going to tell me that I should change. Does that make sense?
Where did you think I would tell you to
like,
change?
oh yeah, don't post that. Or like, oh yeah, that copy's weird, or that thing isn't complete. So a lot of the things that we've been doing, and there's so many other things too, but is I'll just be like, okay, and this for the cover photo. It's like things that you would send your girlfriends anyway. And now Kinzie and I are dear, dear, dear friends. But it's been fun to see such a reflection of like what I thought was correct or what I felt called to do was that anyway.
Well, I think it's even been interesting to be like, we've experimented with different types of content.
Yeah.
And like, cause I've grown my brand using like shareable content, and you've just always done really well with like lifestyle and reels and whatever. And it's interesting because we've like experimented with it, but your reels still pop off the absolute most out of it. And it's like, it's what's easy to you. It's what you like to do. It's what your audience likes. And so it's been cool to see, even as we've experimented, like you've known the right steps to take the entire time.
Yes, that's truly been like the coolest thing. But I'm still like, well, you'll be my coach for forever.
Of course.
Because it's just so nice to find somebody that works so well with what you're needing. And yeah, I just have loved that. I think, you know, obviously that's why our topic today is cancel culture and cringe, because both of them don't exist. And I would be lying if I didn't say that I I worry about that. It's like that inner child within me. Like I'm the youngest girl and I didn't have sisters right next to me. And, there's just so many different things of like uncovering who I thought I was and then not knowing that and then doubting myself and all these different things. And it's beautiful to have a support person to like really like shake that out of you. Be like, what are you even talking about? And it's really helped me continue to excel my business. And whether this is a coach or a friend, it's really helped me excel because there's no way to be cringe. There's literally no way. Like there's nothing that I couldn't do or that I could do because ultimately it comes down to like what is in your heart? What is in your integrity? What's your accountability story? And that's what I teach my people. But it's getting into even like every single piece of poetry I write or every picture I post or whatever it is. And that's like can be super profound. That's the other thing that's so interesting is like you think like, oh, they're going to get theirs. They're going to get karma. Like these people that are just such in low integrity and they're making multi-millions. They're going to get there someday. No.
It's because they're doing it with their whole chest. Like I think they know they're out of integrity. And so it's still authentic for them. Like if you're going to be evil, just do it with your whole chest and it'll always be fine.
Wow.
I think it's when people are like, it's like when you're being evil and like tiptoeing around, you're like, oh, should I be evil? And then you like do it again. And then you're like, oh, I don't know if I should do this. That wavery energy is like what gets you fucked up. But if you're just like doing it with your full chest, I think that's when we're like, why aren't they getting, whatever it's called, consequences? And it's because they're doing it with their whole chest. It's like you said, authenticity is more powerful than love. It's like they're doing it on purpose.
I do believe though that they are gonna get it maybe in another life.
Yeah.
Like that karmic,
it'll come back. They'll get the polarity of it for sure.
Yeah.
But sometimes we can't immediately see it.
That reminded me of something I wanted to talk about. So we talked about the projections of what happens to other people when they are, sure, they're bad people, whatever. I'm so sorry for them and their karma that is coming to them from this life or the next, with them writing me comments or trying to cancel somebody or saying someone's cringe. But what happens, you think, to us when we allow that to stifle who we are? What do you think happens? Kinzie? We've been laughing my abs hurt. We're trying to wrap this up.
I know I'm trying to be really serious, but now I'm trying to know if you're wanting me to like answer it. Okay. So what happens when we let it affect us?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, this is one thing. And I think, so Sadie's helping me heal my heart walls because I would actually say part of like not caring what people think is like heart walls up a little bit, I think.
Interesting. So that's how you've let go of course.
Because it's like the Leo thing that we were talking about where I'm like if somebody apologizes to me, I'm like, you think I literally thought another second about you doing it? Like it offends me if somebody apologizes to me because I'm like, you think I care? And that's not where we're trying to be.
Baylor is walking down an old barbecue.
What is happening?
I'm sorry, I was trying so hard to be serious, but my son with a friend found a broken down barbecuer and it's hauling it into our house.
And not like a small barbecuer.
The other day he brought home a whole broken computer so I could look at it.
Oh my gosh. Is he like an engineer?
Yeah, he's a manifesting generator, triple Gemini.
And he's Gemini, yeah.
Okay. So this is really interesting that you brought this up, but I actually love this. This is giving vulnerable Kinzie, which I love, because I think that one thing that's been beautiful about you being true to who you are and being able to just be like, well, F everybody else, is there's a little bit of disassociation there. But it doesn't necessarily have to be that way. That's just how you've learned it. And you've done that disassociation by keeping your heart walls up.
Mm-hmm.
Yes?
Mm-hmm. 1,000,000%.
And so tell me something more.
Well, I think what's actually big for me, this isn't even on the topic we were on. What I've started saying that is like really big, and I don't even know if this is like the like healed thing to say, but saying something hurt my feelings. is a really big deal for me.
You're letting yourself feel.
Yeah. So like if somebody leaves a rude comment, immediately being like crazy, like going crazy on them, just like being like, oh, that kind of hurt my feelings what they said. And it sounds so dumb. It's like such like baby type words. But even with like relationships, instead of immediately I go into like heart walls up, I don't care, I don't need you, I don't blah blah blah, and being like, that actually hurt my feelings that you said that. Like that has, in a way, it feels like it's less connected, because before I would be like, I don't care about you, but it's like I have all these cords running out my back of people that I'm pretending that like I don't care what they did to me, versus when I can just face it head on and be like, that hurt my feelings or whatever. It doesn't even necessarily have to be that, but just like it addressing how it made me feel, I feel like has been big.
It's the alchemy of expression. And one thing really quick about heart walls, since we're on this topic, and I was teaching Kinzie this, is we think heart walls is actually protecting us from the outside, but what's actually happening is it's keeping everything that made us put our heart walls up in the first place, it's keeping it inside. It's making it fester. It's creating dis-ease within our bodies. So it's not actually affecting anybody but ourselves. And that heart wall has a name. It has a characteristics. It has what actually created that heart wall. That is where your cords are, because the cords are actually keeping it there. It's holding it there. It's literally fueling this heart wall up there. So rather than allowing these negative comments, this cringe to harden you, you can allow yourself to express it and feel, remove the heart walls and express your emotions in a really, really healthy way, which can ultimately just bring the power back to yourself.
1,000,000%.
And that's where I see things happen on the internet where we're either not allowing, or we're giving everything too much power. Ultimately, the caring is what literally creates the energy that makes it difficult for you to continue to move on, that makes it difficult for you to continue to create from a place, from your heart space, from your womb. We are literally changing the world by sharing from an authentic place and then not allowing those I'll literally call them entities, that then fester within us and continue to grow from the negativity that is being perpetrated from the people around us. So like I think about people that leave a mean comment and the energy there. And I think about what they're dealing with or who they are or whatever it is. And then all of a sudden it festers and builds and builds and builds. And those people now are running Reddit pages, right? That energy is festering from the negativity, from what they're sharing right online. And we're feeling that. And so how we combat it is just continuing to stay in our integrity and continuing to standing up for that. And then also we can do that while also not hardening ourselves, because then what's the point of all that anyway? Right? And so clearing ourselves, really being accountable for ourselves, accountable for our energies, especially if you're on the internet. Like if you are on the internet and you have a space and people are seeing you and there are eyes on you, make sure you're being mindful of your energy. Make sure you're being clear of your energy and making sure, because a lot of the things you might be feeling from this idea of cringe or this idea of cancel culture might not even be yours. It might be from someone else's energy that's just bringing it to you. So how do we combat it? How do we clear it? Using clearing agents, different herbs, calling on our angels, different crystals. It is it's requiring of us a different level of responsibility when we are allowing ourselves to use this incredible tool to share our medicine in the world. Do you have any experience with that?
Of getting canceled?
No, just of like having to clear energy because of energy you feel from online or anything like that.
Not a favorite story, but it's totally off. That was a really hard question.
Was it?
I mean, I have an example of clearing energy, but it was when my dogs were barking at a demon in my house.
Have you, like, Kinzie, have you ever had any time when you've had to like exercise demons? Actually, I'll ask it this way.
No, let me ask
Okay.
I haven't, have you?
It feels like to me other than like your vulnerable share of navigating this new space, of navigating the energies that are coming in and out of you from an open heart space, do you have any other suggestions of how you've combated maybe this negativity online, or like really allowing yourself to show up in your authentic self without the cringe, without the need to be worried about cancel culture?
I feel like I like to notice what ones like hurt my feelings the most and be like, okay, how can I build this confidence in myself? Because I think it's exactly what you were saying. I mean, even with how you were talking about like being a naked mom, like you don't have shame in that. So the comments, you were like, whatever. But it's like when we have the comments, like I do have to look at stuff when I see stuff about like coaching or charging a lot or whatever. I do have to go within me and say, like, okay, I want to build the courage, like the confidence inside myself that if somebody said this to me again, it wouldn't hurt my feelings. I would be like, okay, that's your opinion, and it wouldn't hurt me. So I feel like it's almost like this inner work when those comments happen that do specifically trigger me, to be like, how can I kind of just build myself up so that if next time this happens, it won't trigger me.
And that's where the mirror exists. That's where you can say, how can I actually, reflect that back into myself to make me a better person? That's where the accountability lies. It's amazing.
And I also had my sister tell me, it's nice because I have sisters that are like Gen Z, so they're not like as afraid of cancel culture as we are, because they grew up with it. But she always says, like, if I got canceled, I'd just say, whoops, sorry. And like that energy, like I'm just like, that's so nice to think about, because I also feel like our generation is more thinking about like the legal side of it. And like we were taught like never admit fault and never. So it's like we have these two sides of us, that it's like never admit that you did something bad, but then also you're supposed to be authentic online, but also you should always be nice to people who are, because that's something that like I don't believe in, how like people are always like, I just respond with love. Like if you're rude to me, I'm gonna be rude to you. That it's almost up for yourself. It's like my like purge moment. Totally. That I'm like, all this, like I get to use this energy on one person. Maybe that's why people they don't leave hate comments, because I'm scary that way. But like
that's your authenticity though. That's like you standing up for yourself.
There's like all these sides of what we're supposed to do. But I think with this younger generation, like a little bit, and I don't know, that doesn't have to be true for everybody, but it's like, say sorry and put your phone in the drawer or whatever. Like, I think the most important thing when those things happen is like, put your phone away. We like remember that your phone, just put it in a drawer, turn it off, go to a movie, like get your mind out of it, because in even a day, it's going to be over.
It's so, this legality thing is so funny, because like even the legal system, knowing I've been in 2 different awful legal battles, it's so fake. It's so awful. And talking about this new age that we're coming in, this age of Aquarius, that's so true about this new generation. It's like, they just don't even care. I mean, not all of them, but because the systems are failing. Like, how do you build a completely different internet system off of a foundational system of books and rules that don't even exist anymore? So now it's like, we get to play the rules, and how are we going to play?
Literally. Well, I think of like with college now, you have to like sign a paper that you won't use AI on your papers. And it's like, that's not going to work.
I just saw, that's crazy, because I just saw a reel on somebody that said, the next doctor that you go to, I don't know if this is true, I'm going to say it anyway, because I thought it was really interesting and insightful. The next doctor you go to is cheating on his exam with AI.
Literally.
So be mindful of who you're saying. And ultimately, all of it is just forcing us to come back to ourselves over and over and over. So are you going to go to the doctor and listen to him about your diagnosis, listen to him about your pregnancy, listen to him? Like, this is not the way. The way is continual, integral, coming back home to yourself, and everything, including the demonic negative energies from cancel. It's all like, sorry, but it's actually not working in your favor, whoever created that, because it's actually creating more of a polarity to come back deeper to ourselves. Yeah. Beautiful insight.
Did we finish that up?
Yeah. Okay. I think we did really well. Unless you had anything else to say about, okay. We really put it together. Yeah. I'm really proud of us. Thank you so much for coming on and talking and just being who you are and being such an inspiration and such a dear friend to me. I just feel so grateful that you're in this timeline with me. I just have one more question, and it relates to the wild within you. What is one thing that you can think of that really has helped you come back to who you are and the wild within you? And maybe you never lost it. What maybe something is something that you always continually can come to, a tool that you can come to help you remain wild.
I don't know. The word tool is hard for me, but I honestly feel like one of the biggest like coming home to myself was shaving my head. I had really short hair until I was like 20, and then I started growing it out, and then I had it long till it was like I had 22-inch extensions, but my hair was like that same length.
Wow.
And a lot of it was around this idea of like looking appealing to men. And it's like for the first time in my life, when I had long hair, I got the attention from men that I was like looking for. And so then I feel like it created this like fear around like hair that I had never had before. Like I never had fear or any identity in my hair wrapped up before. And finally one day I just decided to do it, and I feel so much more feminine with a shaved head. I feel like so like my version of feminine. And it seems like a dumb thing, but I think it was a really big like
reclamation. You look so good with it too.
Thanks.
It reminds me a little bit of like going red.
Yeah.
It's like anything that we think that we want to do, like there's an inkling in there that we want to do, but there's like these doubts because of this and this and this, or this person or this person or this person. Do it. That's your reclamation.
Yes. And those things, I've never regretted doing them. Yeah. Like I'm always like, why didn't I do this so much longer ago? And I'll see pictures of myself before, and I'm like, I didn't even look like myself then. Same with you, even with like blonde hair. I'm like, you feel so much more like you with the red.
I know. It's crazy.
So crazy.
It is. It's so crazy. It's a new identity unlocked that I'm still uncovering like little pieces. Yeah. Like even going to Costa Rica, I'm hosting a retreat there at the end of May, beginning of June. And so I went to go check out the retreat center, and I like live part of my life in the jungle. And my hair is super, super wavy, but it was like a whole nother layer of like, okay, red hair. I don't know what it was. It's just like these new identities and these false beliefs. And ultimately, I think whether I like to believe it or not, or admit it, it's assumptions of other people. And I'm telling you, it's so nice to just not care. And the only way to get to not caring, the only way to get back to your wild is to be brave enough to try. And then you get it. Amazing.
And then it's fun.
And it's so fun. This is the whole point. That's the whole point of all this. And if we stop thinking about who's seeing this and who's trying to reprimand us and who's trying to put us in Instagram jail, all of it is just so fun. What a gift. It is so fun to be alive at this time. It is so incredible, monumental. And there's incredible people on this earth that we get to be surrounded by, to have fun with. Yeah.
100%.
Including Kinzie Madsen. She's amazing. And she has one of her most incredible courses open right now, $1 Million Brand Academy. So you can go to her Instagram, which I think is just Kinzie Madsen, right? Kinzie Madsen, and check it out. She's an incredible coach, an incredible guide. You will not regret it.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thanks for always seeing me.
Oh,
and
yeah,
all my
girl.
Craziness and wildness.
This projector recognizes your projector and you.
Okay, before we go though, you have to tell them more about Costa Rica and like all the details, because we literally spent like, I feel like 3 or 4 hours talking about everything about it this morning. They need to know. I know, we were supposed to be doing all this other work, and I could not stop talking about, you guys, this retreat center is so insane. And she's right. We have spots left, which is insane. And it's mostly because I literally have not talked about it. This is open to my whole community. And it's a retreat that I've been wanting to do forever. And I just haven't had time because of my other retreats. You know, I have backpacking retreats, plant medicine retreats. This one is none of those things. We're going to a 5-star jungle oasis retreat center that I rented out. And I had never even seen it before. And then I was like, okay, I better go check this out. We just came back literally. We landed at like 1 a.m. this morning. I am so impressed. I am so blown away. Like I said, I rented out the whole thing. The staff is amazing. The food is amazing. The accommodations are amazing. If you're curious of like what it looks like, go to my Costa highlight. It's my last highlight on Instagram. And the dates are May 28th through June 4th. So we're going to be there for 5 days, 4 full days. And then there's travel days on the edge. And what's so cool is this retreat center is on the coast, but it takes like 4 hours to drive from San Jose to the coast. This specific retreat center has chartered planes that are combined into your ticket. And so you go on a chartered plane. It's like maybe 15 minutes, super safe. It's bigger than you expect. So don't be nervous. It's literally giving like Quantum Leap.
It's truly, I entered a portal They like meet you there with fresh juice. You get to the retreat center with like cold towels, and they have all of this incredible vegan food, incredible staff. They have everything set up for us. What we're doing there is we're going to go through, I call it the Sacred Rebel Retreat, which is a little confusing for those that aren't in Sacred Rebels, but it's open, like I said, to my entire community of women. It's only women. And what we're doing is what I teach the women in Sacred Rebels. So we're going through elemental embodiment. So every single day is dedicated to an element. So like the first day is going to be earth, which is body. So we're getting really into the body, right? So we're doing somatics and yoga. We're going to be doing some breath work, ecstatic dance, really entering into that space. And then the next day, we're also going to do a cacao ceremony. And I think that's on the water or on the air day. So the next day is air mind, and we'll go into like subconscious reprogramming and hypnotherapy. And we have an incredible cacao ceremony with local Costa Ricans that come in that we get to support, which is amazing. The other thing that's really cool about this retreat center is that the food is all from local farms, family farms, rather than like huge production places. So it's just really fun to be able to support. And this retreat center didn't cut down any trees to continue to grow it, which I think is also amazing too. And you can just feel how supported you are by Mama Jungle down there. And all the excursions I added, all the little pieces, I added a fun experience every day so that we could really feel the essence of Costa Rica and the energy with each element. So we're doing this beautiful waterfall hike to do this like beautiful clay ceremony. We'll do a water blessing too there, which water is soul. And then we'll feel into the soul of ourselves. And then finally, we'll do womb work, and we'll do fire ceremonies and this incredible beach mandala. And we'll have a day on the beach in the ocean. We're going to work really powerfully with our wombs, a lot of really sacred womb work, sacred rage. And it's just going to be incredible. I cannot believe how incredible this retreat center is. And I hope you guys will join me. We have a handful of spots left. It's in 6 weeks. I'm not going to do another one of these until January of 2026. So,
and there's so like it's all new content. This is like a fully new offering from you, which is so exciting.
Yeah, I've wanted to do like a goddess feminine embodied retreat for so long. It's something that, you know, I have my Simply Sensual course. I created a whole nother company with the period underwear. Like feminine embodiment is everything to me, and structuring it within the elements is so important because it really helps us conceptualize how to implement it and integrate it into our life. And you get it all within that moment, bringing together a sisterhood and just coming together to learn really how to come home to the truest form of yourself.
It's going to be so good.
Yeah. So join us. We'll drop the link below in the description, potentially in like the YouTube link. And if you have any questions, you can just slide into my DMs. And that's it.
And there's payment plans available, right?
There's
like
available.
Super easy payment plans
for like a year. So you don't have to finish paying by the retreat. You can pay within a year.
So awesome.
Which is super nice.
So exciting.
I know. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be amazing. So I'll see you in Costa Rica. And I hope that before that, you can find things to help you find the wild within you. And if you feel like Costa Rica is it, I'll see you there. And remember that you are never too much and always enough.